Hello there! Now, before we begin, I just wanted to say a small disclaimer. I am not here to trash on RWBY. I am someone who actually genuinely enjoys the show quite a bit and would love nothing more than to love it in its entirety. We are all obviously entitled to our own opinions, but I would like to do that in a non-toxic and respectful way. I'm not here to hate. Just talk, so no shade to the writers. Just sit back and allow for me to tell you all about my favorite RWBY character. I wonder who that could be. Yes, my favorite character is General Ironwood, if you couldn't already tell. Some of y'all may be asking why. Why is your favorite character a crazy psycho dictator who threatened to bomb a city of innocent people? Yeah, that was nuts, but let me explain. As I draw our best girl Weiss. I'll link the reference photo I used for her pose down in the description below. With that being said, let's begin. Prior to Volume 8, Ironwood was the exact opposite of what I previously described. His character did a complete 180 in the recent volume to make him the big baddie of the season, even though the real villain, Salem, was right there. I gotta say that I respect Salem a whole lot more after this volume. I mean, all she had to do was sit back and relax in her giant whale, her mere presence alone, enough to destroy 2 whole cities and get her hands on both relics. But whose fault is that really? Okay, to clarify, I do not hate Team RWBY. To be completely honest, the reason why I started to watch RWBY in the first place was because of Blake and Yane and the Bumblebee ship. It's so embarrassing, I know, but I thought, guess I'll binge all 6 seasons just so I can be there when the 2 officially do become a couple. Yay! And that still hasn't happened yet. Anyway, so I watched the show, and I really, really liked it. When Volume 7 rolled around, it became my favorite volume, and honestly still is. I loved Penny. I loved Crow and Clover's friendship. I loved the songs, the character interactions, the fights, and of course Ironwood, but we'll get to him later. I began to like RWBY not just for the ships, but for the individual characters, funny moments, lore, and honestly every other aspect of the show. Shipping is fun, and there's no harm in it, but I'm not one of those people who harass creators online and demand for my ships to become canon. Like, who does that? And who thinks that that is okay in any way? It's not. Anyway, I digress. So let's talk about Jimmy. When I watched RWBY for the first time, I honestly didn't really care much about Ironwood. He was just kind of there and a random side character, and easily one to overlook. Then Volume 7 happened, and I grew to really love him. A lot of people did. Volume 7 was pretty much an Ironwood volume. We got to see Ironwood's struggles with not only leading an entire military and academy, but also shouldering the burden of fighting Salem. With Ozpin gone, he had to step up to lead the fight on his own, and in secret. He was struggling, he was stressed, and he was tired.
The kingdom of Atlas will remain strong, and it will remain safe. That is my promise.
General Ironwood. He looks tired.
James, what have you been doing?
And when Team RWBY and the main cast showed up, he couldn't have been more happy for new help to arrive. He was relieved.
Please, come in. It is so good to see all of you.
Our reception didn't really convey that.
I sincerely regret how you were treated by my team.
And then that fight with Watts. Oh man, chef's kiss. Hero? Caleb Hiles? Heck yeah, my favorite fight in the entire series. And then, immediately after that fight, Ironwood became the anti-hero by going against Team RWBY. It was truly amazing writing, and ironic at its finest. But then, everyone got mad at Ironwood, and I have to ask, what did Ironwood do wrong to prompt such a reaction? Nothing. Ironwood did nothing wrong until shooting Oscar, but we'll get to that later. I mostly forgot about Ironwood until Volume 8 rolled around. In Volume 8, he became a ruthless, heartless monster who would kill anyone who stood in his way. But actually, that's not what he became. That's what the writers wanted the audience to think. He was made to look bad so Team RWBY could look good. And I bought it. With 2 episodes left to go of the season, I recently went back to rewatch Volume 7, and oh boy, I fell in love with Ironwood and his character all over again. I forgot how seriously amazing he was, doing everything he could and not caring if it made him look bad in the process. He wanted to protect Remnant from Salem and was willing to sacrifice himself to do so. He was selfless. He was a good guy, and Volume 8 made me forget all about that. And Ironwood initially did do nothing wrong. Many people said that he wanted to abandon Mantle just to save himself and the elite of Atlas. Excuse me? Have you even watched the show? Dude didn't give a flip about the upper class. As seen in Volume 4, Ironwood risked his own reputation to defend WEISS against snobby rich people and her father.
She's insane! She should be locked up!
She's the only one making sense around here. Thanks for the party, Jacques.
Basically, he destroyed his reputation, which was already fragile to begin with, by defending a single girl who was only speaking the truth. Both Ironwood and WEISS fought at the Fall Beacon. They knew the truth and wouldn't stand for people making a fool out of the situation. This was because Ironwood cared about WEISS. He cared about the people, not his status, not the upper class, not Atlas, but the people. He sacrificed himself in many ways and made everyone hate him by closing the borders to his kingdom and establishing an embargo just to protect Atlas from Salem and keep them safe. But no one knew about Salem. So no one knew why he was doing what he was doing, and they hated him for it. And then Ironwood wanted to tell the world why. He wanted to tell them the truth, something that Ozpin never did. And so Ironwood planned to tell Remnant about Salem. Ironwood had to hide the Amity Coliseum project from the public because he couldn't risk Salem's forces finding out about the communications tower and sabotaging it before it was completed. And he couldn't tell Atlas immediately because his army had to prepare to fend off the Grimm that would inevitably arrive due to the widespread panic his message would spark.
I am so sick of secrets! If we just told everyone about Amity, about Salem!
We can't! If we talk about Amity now, we risk Salem's forces, who we know are here, working to sabotage it. If we tell them about Salem now, we risk falling to the Grimm before we can reunite Remnant. We have to finish the tower. I want Robin Hill in custody. We can offer her a deal if she gets Mantle to cooperate.
Ironwood was the only one with an actual plan. Ironwood was open, honest, and instantly told Team RWBY his plans to re-establish global communications the moment they arrived in his office. He never doubted them and welcomed them. He welcomed new help, new people to confide in. It relieved some of his immense pressure. And what did Team RWBY do in return?
Oz? I'm so glad you're here. I didn't think you...
Not quite. He's kind of, gone at the moment.
That's not normal. How did he...
We don't know. We were in a train crash, and ever since, well, suddenly Oz wasn't there anymore.
It's the worst news yet. Did you learn anything from him about the relics before?
He told us the lamp can answer 3 questions. But all the questions were used up already.
Right.
Ruby straight up lied to his face, told Ironwood that Ozpin was gone, and that the lamp's questions were all answered already. And then she didn't even tell him that Salem was immortal. But why? It was because Team RWBY thought that they couldn't trust Ironwood. The man who gave Yane a new arm for flippin' free.
Brand new, state-of-the-art Atlas tech. You know, I thought I was gonna have to pull some strings, call in a few favors, but you earned this one all on your own, kiddo.
Huh?
Before I could even talk to him, General Ironwood already had one of his top scientists working on this. For you. He wanted me to tell you that you fought admirably. You should be proud of yourself.
The man who told students no one would blame them if they chose to save themselves and didn't want to fight at the Battle of Beacon.
What should we do?
You have 2 choices. Defend your kingdom and your school, or save yourselves. No one will fault you if you leave.
The man who defended WEISS 2 times.
She's the only one making sense around here.
I know exactly the kind of man you are.
How dare you speak to me that way? I have half a mind to—
Half a mind to what, Jacques?
Offered her a place at his academy.
Please know, you'll always have a home at Atlas Academy, Mishni. We'll be back in session before you know it.
Made them huntresses.
We're honored, General Ironwood. But you really don't have to do
Please. With the threat of Salem still out there, and tensions rising in our kingdom, I certainly could use more trustworthy fighters by my side. I should be so lucky to have all of you. It's okay. It's a big moment.
Was fighting a secret battle on his own with little help. Welcomed them with open arms. Told them his secrets. Ironwood gave them all free new weapons. And advanced training with his top huntsmen. He built robotic soldiers just so humans wouldn't have to risk their lives on the battlefield.
Smarter, sleeker, and admittedly, a little less scary. These models will become active later this year, but they won't be alone. Now, the Atlesian military has always supported the idea of removing men from the dangers of the battlefield.
And how did Team RWBY repay him? Lie to his face, go behind his back and divulge secrets to his enemies, and then have the gall to call him untrustworthy?
You're stalling. Amity Coliseum, all of these supplies, they're for a new communications tower.
Why did he ever have to prove himself to them? Why was there ever any doubt that he was trustworthy? Now, to be fair, the team did just experience treason from Lionheart, who was working with Salem and had also been a part of Oz's inner circle. It may be true to say that they had a right to be wary, especially when first arriving in Atlas and seeing the state of Mantle. But if Team RWBY was waiting for Ironwood to prove himself to them, wouldn't he have done so by their first meeting? Especially when he gave them back the Relic of Knowledge, trusted them with it, even though they went to Atlas to deliver it to him in the first place.
You're giving it back to me?
After what happened with the Aesops, I don't want you to think I'm keeping anything from you, especially something as important as this. For the time being, I think it's safest with the people who brought it here.
Thank you.
And didn't Crow trust Ironwood? Crow knew that Ironwood wasn't responsible for what happened at Beacon.
Crow, this isn't my doing!
You idiot. I know you didn't do this. So what now, General?
As much as they bickered and disagreed, the two had been friends and allies with Ozpin and each other. Oz kept both of them in the dark, and had them unknowingly fight in a battle against an immortal enemy. With Ironwood now actively doing something to try to combat Salem, he deserved to know what he was truly up against. And then the main cast eventually do tell Ironwood that Salem is immortal. At the worst time, mind you. But who is the one to tell him this? Best Boy Oscar, not RWBY, the one who chose to lie in the first place. There were no consequences for her actions.
She can't be killed. Jin told you this.
She showed us when we asked what Oz was hiding.
Why? Why would Oz keep this from us? From the people who trusted him?
He was worried you would lose hope. We're sorry we kept it from you too. We didn't know who to trust. I figured you should know before you make any sacrifices. Sir? What are you gonna do?
All we can do for the moment is what we can to save Mantle. That's what's in front of us.
He'd be proud of you.
But Ironwood didn't even seem to care that they had lied to him. What he cared about was that Salem was immortal, and that all his actions, all his choices, and all the sacrifices he had to make may have been for nothing. But instead of becoming angry at RWBY, he chose to keep on fighting, to evacuate Mantle, to tell Atlas the truth about Salem, and continue on with his plan to reunite Remnant and later tell everybody. If anything, finding out that Salem couldn't be killed only strengthened his resolve to help people. He wasn't mad at RWBY or Team RWBY. He understood. There were bigger things to deal with. He kept going because he couldn't afford to back down now. It's admirable. After Ironwood literally ripped the skin off of his remaining human arm to stop Watts, he could finally breathe, until he returned to his office, where he saw the Black Queen chess piece. It is heavily implied that Ironwood had grave PTSD after the fall of Beacon, where someone hacked his ships and robotic soldiers, where Salem's forces killed Penny, and then destroyed the communications tower.
When Salem hit Beacon, even with all my ships, all of my soldiers, I was no match for her. I've never felt so helpless. The way she told me she was there.
The Black Queen showed him that Salem was there, and as soon as Ironwood saw that exact same symbol in his office, that's when he broke. Cinder messed with his already exhausted mind. It was the final straw. Ironwood was tired of the lies, tired of losing, tired of feeling helpless.
Someone was here. They put this in my office to tell me that it... What if Mantle was just a distraction? What if it was just to draw us away from the Academy to...
Sir, it's going to be okay. We've got Mantle on our side now, and...
How do we know that wasn't part of their plan? How do we know they didn't want us to bring people into Atlas by the thousands?
In trying to save everyone, we left ourselves most vulnerable.
Salem has been one step ahead of us this entire time!
He was paranoid. He thought that Salem was already in Atlas. And because he had just ordered his troops and ships to aid Mantle and help them evacuate, she had had her opening. He thought that she was using him to get inside, and he was right. Cinder was there. They took advantage of his heart to mess with his mind, and it worked. Scared, confused, and feeling helpless once again, Ironwood had to make a choice. If Salem gets all 4 relics, then she'll unite them, bring back the gods, and destroy the world. Ironwood knows this, and his top priority is getting the staff and the maiden safe from Salem's forces. Cause if she gets them, then the whole world will end. Ironwood wanted to prevent that from happening. He wanted to raise Atlas into the atmosphere, not to protect the Atlas Elite, not to save himself, but to save the staff of creation, and with it, hopefully save all of Remnant.
We're nowhere near finished evacuating everyone. You'd be leaving Mantle to die.
Yes, I would. We can't allow Salem to capture the relics. This is our best chance at getting the staff, the lamp, and the maiden as far away from her as possible.
But we have an opportunity to reunite the world. If we launch the tower, we can all work together again. We could even call for help. If we can hold out long enough.
Sometimes doing the right thing means making tough decisions.
In that situation, it was a difficult, moral choice that any logical person would have to make. Ironwood never wanted to abandon Mantle, but between saving one city versus the entire world, and with Salem quite literally on his doorstep, then the choice should have been obvious. Protect the staff, no matter the cost. But then what did Team RWBY do? They got upset, called him out, admitted that they went behind his back and betrayed him by telling Robin, a known criminal, about his top secret plans that he trusted them with. Then the girls got angry when Ironwood told them they could no longer keep the lamp? Well, no crap. He had every right not to trust him anymore in that instance. They abused his trust. Of course, abandoning Mantle was sad and tragic, but Ironwood had no other choice, or at least believed he had no other choice. And Team RWBY, being the self-righteous heroes that they are, wanted to continue to help Mantle. Now, obviously, neither of them were in the wrong here. Ironwood felt he had no time to evacuate Mantle, and Team RWBY failed to see the bigger picture. They could have talked it out, worked together to do both. Instead, everyone turned against him. I hear a lot of people saying, oh, Ironwood was doing the wrong thing for all the right reasons, or he became the very thing he wanted to destroy. Like what? No, he didn't. He was open and honest and got backstabbed. His enemies had gotten in the minute he let his guard down. Dude had a right to be paranoid, and he made the tough calls that others weren't willing to make. And why is that? Because he's the general, a grown man with years of experience, and has been in the fight against Salem for probably decades. And then Team RWBY, teenagers, think that they know better than him? Instead of trying to talk with Ironwood, they fight their way out, become criminals, and actively work against him. Now, shooting Oscar was a big no-no. Poor boy did nothing wrong, but the moment Ironwood fired, that's when his semblance kicked in. I'm not trying to excuse his actions for shooting an innocent kid, but his semblance was definitely a factor that led him to do this. What is his semblance, you ask? Well, according to a Zoom panel, Ironwood's semblance is called metal. It gives him tunnel vision and makes him tune out those who disagree with him, so he can instead just focus on his one goal. In this case, saving the staff, and Oscar was standing in his way. Ironwood's semblance made him do whatever it took to remove Oscar, the person trying to stop him, out of the equation.
Yeah, so Ironwood does have a semblance. It's like in the show. It's in like little bits. You can kind of see it. It's more of like a passive semblance that runs in the back.
Some people say that this semblance is the stupidest thing ever, but I disagree. It adds so much more depth to Ironwood's already three-dimensional character, and is basically an excuse for why he went totally insane in Volume 8. And God knows I need any excuse I can get.
To you, it's general.
You can literally see the light leave Ironwood's eyes when he fires at Oscar, indicating that his semblance is activated and that he's refusing to listen to other people. This is in complete contrast to Ironwood throughout Volume 7. He was scared, didn't know who to trust, but he eventually opened up and teamed up with Robin to tell the truth.
Earlier, you asked for my advice.
I wanted Ozpin's advice.
And his advice probably would have been to keep your secrets. When we first got here, you already knew that wasn't the right course. You had a new plan.
It's time to give up on that plan. It's all falling apart.
The panic you were worried about, it's already happening. The secrets you're keeping, they're about to be in the open anyway. It's time. Tell the truth.
You're not alone. We can do this together.
Thank you.
He was willing to work with Robin even before Bumblebee betrayed him. Why did Blake and Yane think that they could trust Robin, who they barely knew, and who could have been working for Salem? And why did they think that they couldn't trust the man who believed in Yane when the world thought she attacked an innocent student in the tournament?
But Yane would never do that.
Yeah.
You all seem like good students. And the staff here at Beacon are fully aware that you would never lash out the way you did, under normal circumstances. What I believe, and hope this to be, is nothing more than the result of stress and adrenaline. When you're out on the battlefield, your judgment can become clouded in an instant. Sometimes you see things that simply aren't there, even after the fight is past.
Does anyone in the show know about Ironwood's semblance? Does Ironwood even know about his semblance? Does the audience know about his semblance? The answer to these is no. It doesn't seem like it, because not once does the show even hint or mention Ironwood's semblance. Metal is like Crow's semblance. It's passive, and Ironwood has absolutely no control over it.
So that's kind of running in the background of 7 and 8 a little bit. We really wanted to put it on screen in either one of those volumes, but at both the opportunities that we had to put it on screen, it was not the most important thing that needed to be said. And so it felt a little weird, and then we just never really got it on the page, but you can actually see it happening.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we're like constantly thinking about when we're writing and storyboarding, animating. It was just, you know, there were more important things to cover in the season. So,
every second of volume 7 and 8 is so precious, like so precious, but maybe.
So, the writers chose to give Ironwood, a wounded, paranoid war general with PTSD and a big heart, a mental handicap with his semblance, and never mention it? Not only that, but half of Ironwood's freaking body is made of metal. And he pretty much had to tear off his own arm. And then Winter has the guts to tell him that he sacrificed everyone else?
Winter, do not blame me! I have sacrificed everything!
No! You have sacrificed everyone else!
I wouldn't do that if I were you. I mean, unless you're hoping to add more metal to that body of yours. All right, now, where did they put them? What?
You have sacrificed everyone else!
But we'll get to former best girl later. So not only does Ironwood have the equivalent of a mental disorder, but also physical impairments and handicaps, and they never bring up either. He's disabled in more ways than one, and we're supposed to hate him. Why? And he's the main villain now. Why? Because he disagrees with Team RWBY? After learning about his semblance, Ironwood's arc in Volume 8 makes sense. Instead of him looking like a complete, heartless dictator crazy person, you begin to pity and genuinely feel bad for Ironwood. He's a slave to his semblance, just like Ro, and is just trying to do what he thinks is right to help the vast majority. And high school dropouts are messing and interfering with that. Poor dude. And to make matters worse, Team RWBY steals his idea of the communications tower and publicly tells the world that Ironwood cannot be trusted, while Salem is right frickin' there.
But I promised Professor Goodwitch of Beacon and Headmaster Theodore of Shade can verify all of this.
They might even be able to help organize a way to fight back. But sadly, General Ironwood can no longer be trusted.
They wanted to save Mantle, but in the first episode of Volume 8, RWBY fights with Yane and goes off to do what Ironwood wanted to do all along, and then she takes credit for his idea. Next, RWBY and company goes and hides in WEISS's mansion, a house that she spent so long trying to distance herself from, both physically and mentally. And then the girls drink tea for half the season? Meanwhile, Ironwood is engaged in a full-on battle against the main villain of the series. There is no excuse. After the Grim Whale is destroyed by best boy and main character Oscar, Ironwood should have calmed down. Salem was gone, for now. He had time to plan. But instead, he threatened to bomb Mantle, citizens he fought so hard to protect not one volume ago. Now he's actively trying to hurt them? I'm sorry, what? You expect me to believe that this is the same Tin Man with a heart we grew to love last volume? A heart that, despite popular opinion, he never truly lost? Now, I get this was the whole concept. Tin Man loses his heart instead of gains it. But it was just executed so poorly. Ironwood made so much sense last volume, and more people were siding with him than RWBY. So the writers had to do something to get the audience to turn against him. Well, it worked, cause the whole bomb Mantle thing was freaking crazy and stupid and makes absolutely zero sense to his character and the situation. Bomb Mantle, why? Because of his semblance? A semblance that they never even bothered to mention on screen?
There were more important things to cover in the season. So,
every second of Volume 7 and 8 is so precious, like so precious, but maybe...
But the sad thing is, you can still see the pain in Ironwood's eyes as he makes his announcement. He never lost his heart. It's still there.
But one of us is willing to do it.
The real Ironwood is underneath, being controlled by his dumb semblance, Metal. So, breaking his aura should stop that, right? Ron! The minute Ironwood gets taken down and wakes up in jail, he's back to being the villain, and kills Jock in cold blood. That should have been the moment when Ironwood woke up, reflected on everything that he did wrong, and sought to change before his semblance kicked in again against his will. I was excited in episode 13 to see a broken Ironwood break down even more after he realized the terrible things he threatened to do while his semblance was activated. But that didn't happen. Speaking of didn't happen,
which is a segue I could put anywhere in this video,
the whole season was building up towards Crow versus Ironwood. Crow blamed Clover's death on Ironwood and wanted to kill him for it. Crow and Clover's dynamic during Volume 7 was one of my favorite parts about it. Whether you ship it or not, it was a wholesome friendship and set Crow on a journey of self-love. But now, when Clover died because of their stupid actions and team up with a serial killer, Crow didn't rightfully blame himself and instead wanted revenge on James, a man he knew for so much longer and considered a friend. If Crow and Ironwood fought, not only would we have gotten an amazing battle, but they could have had an honest chat about their semblances and how similar they were. Crow could have helped Ironwood. What hurt me the most in Volume 8 was that the characters treated Ironwood like a savage monster who needed to be put down, when in reality, he was a broken man who just needed help. And Crow could have done that. He could have gotten through to him. Or even frickin' Oz could have. Oz and Ironwood had been friends for years, and Oz trusted Ironwood enough to invite him into his own inner circle. They didn't always see eye to eye, but they still fought together and worked together. And then, after Ozpin was killed during the fall of Beacon, Ironwood was left alone to lead the secret fight. He had to make decisions without Ozpin's guidance, right when he needed his help the most.
This energy source. Oz once speculated it could take us as high as we wanted. To tell you the truth, that served as the inspiration for the Amity Project. Get a communication tower up in the sky, higher than the Grimm can survive, so we never lose contact with each other again.
Right.
We did know we see eye to eye, but I wish I could ask Ozpin what he thought of all this.
Well, I can tell you what I think. The path you're heading down, where you're the only one with the answers, where you do the thing you think is right no matter the cost, it's not going to take you anywhere good.
In the first few volumes, Ironwood wanted to trust Oz, but he felt like he was keeping things from him, which turned out to be true. Ironwood brought his army to Vale not to display his strength publicly, but to keep people safe. He didn't want to hide their battle against Salem anymore, but followed Oz's orders to keep it quiet. Still, Ironwood was right about a threat happening at Beacon, and even though his ships got hijacked, he still had the right idea to bring defense to a kingdom that otherwise had little protection. And yet this backfired, because the enemies knew Ironwood would try to keep everyone safe. That's why they hijacked his system. They knew him, knew what he would do, and used his sympathy to ultimately break a good man.
Her Grace must act swiftly if we are to prevail. If General Ironwood comes to his senses and calls upon aid from Vacuo, all may be lost for us.
You can label me whatever you'd like, but the fact of the matter is, I was right. The minute I softened, let my guard down, that's when Salem had her opening.
If you abandon Mantle, you abandon our best chance of reuniting the world. You abandon Remnant, leaving millions to fend for themselves so a few can survive. What kind
All excellent philosophical points that won't matter if Salem wins.
Listen to me!
No, you!
The fact that Ozpin came back for Volume 8 but never once tried to talk to or get through to Ironwood is a huge missed opportunity.
Which is a segue I could put anywhere in this video.
Even Winter didn't care about Ironwood in the end, and called him an enemy of the kingdom right to his face. Ironwood cried, and showed more regret than Winter ever did. Ironwood was the most human. He didn't want to fight her, but she didn't hesitate to try to kill him. Winter made it seem like he was a jerk of a boss or something, when in the past it showed just how much Ironwood trusted her wholeheartedly, cared about Winter, and helped her escape her abusive father. He also proposed for her to become the Winter Maiden. He didn't groom her whole career. She had the choice, and she accepted. But in their final fight, she yelled at him, saying that he closed the borders, and that he declared martial law, and that it was all his fault.
You closed the borders. You squeezed Mantle until it broke.
Well, you know what, Winter? You know why he closed the borders? Because of your report from Mistral back in Volume 4.
I am basing everything on my reports from your daughter.
A daughter you stole!
But we are not getting into that again.
Oh yes, we have far more pressing matters to discuss, starting with your apparent lunacy.
Doc! Winter is one of my best. If she's telling me there's a threat in Mistral, then I'm not going to take that news lightly. By this time next week, the Kingdom of Atlas will be officially closing its borders.
And guess who brought up the idea of martial law? Oh yeah, you did.
With Robin redistributing the goods her team has stolen, the Amity Project is completely stalled.
But we're so close. There has to be some way we can finish the tower.
There is. Declaring martial law.
Now don't get me wrong. I wouldn't follow Ironwood either if he threatened to nuke a whole city. And it may have seemed like Winter had no other option but to put down a man she once believed in. But still, there should have been more emotion in their final fight. And then Winter just left him there to die. Ironwood's story in Volume 8 could have worked so well and stayed relatively the same, only if the characters cared about him, and if they mentioned his semblance. The volume took place over 2 days, and Ironwood was a completely different person than he had been in Volume 7. 2 days ago, and no one even questioned why. If they had reached out a hand, done something to show that they still cared. But instead, they treated him like trash. The writers wanted Ironwood to lose his heart, but instead, it seemed like he was the only one who still had one, and everyone else had lost their hearts in the process. Team RWBY, speaking of trash...
Which is a segue I could put anywhere in this video.
I'm just kidding. But Team RWBY caused Atlas to fall. They took the relic to get everyone to safety, a noble gesture in theory, but without the relic of creation holding Atlas up, the city began to plummet to the ground. And what happens after Team RWBY takes the staff? Cinder almost immediately gets her hands on it, and delivers both it and the lamp to Salem, right in front of a defeated Ironwood.
And that's checkmate.
So the man who worked so hard to prevent exactly that from happening had to watch his enemies win right in front of his face as he's left there to die when the two cities inevitably collide, either being crushed to death or drowning. So Team RWBY single-handedly destroyed 2 cities, probably killed Atlas soldiers who didn't seem to escape in the portals they made, indirectly killed Ironwood, destroyed the best military in the process that they could have used to fight against Salem, then dumped millions of people into a sandstorm and caused an immigration crisis, allowed for Salem to get both relics and for Penny to die. And now they just get to chill on a tropical beach while everyone else has to pay the price for their actions? How is that fair? How is that justified? What did Ironwood ever do wrong? He deserved a hero's death. He deserved redemption. He deserved to be treated better by the writers and by the characters. Ironwood was a complex, gray character who was supposed to be the anti-hero, not villain. But Team RWBY always has to be right, I guess, and anyone who disagrees with them must be stopped. Ironwood wasn't perfect. As basically the leader of Atlas with 2 council seats, he could have done more to help Mantle, could have done more to stop Faunus discrimination and hatred.
Your opposition and Mantle dropping dead isn't exactly a good look for you, huh?
I'm not really worried about my public image, but it is causing unrest. I think someone's trying to frame me, and by extension, Atlas. And it's working.
Well, if it wasn't for the embargo making everybody so mad, people probably wouldn't be so quick to blame you for everything else. Sir.
No, you're right. Things in Mantle have been hard to manage lately. I'm not blind to its issues. In fact, that's what I want to talk to you about.
But if he didn't seem to care about Mantle so much, then why would he send huntsmen to escort children to school down there? I loved Ironwood, because he's flawed. That's what makes interesting and compelling characters. Give them a struggle, give them weaknesses, a moment to break. RWBY has so much potential,
Which is a segue I could put anywhere in this video,
to be an amazing main character. She just needs more of these things. Ironwood became my favorite because of how compassionate and empathetic he was shown to be. He cared. He was kind. He was a good person. All he needed was a hug from Crow, a slap from Glinda, and he could have easily been saved. Now, most people will just remember Ironwood as the bad guy he was in Volume 7, which absolutely breaks my heart. Like, go back and listen to Hero again.
I would die without regret.
14, 13.
If that would keep my dream alive, living you from harm, shelter in my arms, the beast will find.
7.
I can't even bring myself to like Crow, Winter, or Team RWBY anymore after what they did. Who's really the heartless one here? It's not fair how by making Ironwood look bad, it indirectly made everyone else look bad too. Also, Penny and Watts were two of my favorite characters, so the finale absolutely broke me right in half. I don't think I'll be watching the next volume of RWBY, unfortunately, so someone please let me know if Ironwood survives. There's an open vault right next to you, man. Get on in there. But wait.
And, you know, it's nice to remember his good qualities and his good intentions, but his story also serves as a cautious reminder that the path to hell can sometimes be paved with good intentions. So, James Ironwood, I hope you can rest in peace.
Great. So he's dead? If Ironwood is going to hell, then Team RWBY will surely meet him there with that logic. But nah, dude's going straight up to heaven along with Penny and Pyrrha. Period. I'll link an awesome fanfiction in the description below that did Ironwood's story justice and made me like all the characters again. RWBY truly is an amazing show, and I loved every volume except for 8. I don't want to hate it, and I don't hate it. I'm just sad. In the end, it's really just a show, but this show made me feel something. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to disagree if you'd like. I'd love to hear everyone's take on all of this. Let me know if there was anything that I missed. Anyway, rest in peace, James Ironwood. You will be missed, at least by me.